All right, what's up? So another Sunday, I am wrapping up the last day of filming Epic Pursuits, and then should be driving back to St. Louis before we have the meetup on the weekend of the 13th. For one, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys there. The weekend meetups are going to be really, look, this is a time that you actually get to communicate in person and share and connect. This is how you build a new tribe. This is how you build new relationships, is you actually have to go and interact with them. You know, over the course of my time traveling and meeting people, the connection only holds like if you get to share space and you get to actually connect and be in each other's world. That has to happen occasionally. So I really do recommend you guys coming out for that. I think it'll be a great weekend, and it will be really beneficial and kind of really set the tone for the group. And I promise, you know, based on anyone else who's been in there, Elliot or anyone else who's come to the weekends or Sunday service or any of that, please can speak on what a supercharged energy comes from it. And that's part of what I get traveling. And so being able to share that new space, new environment, new just new perspectives, right? Like you're actually in a new place. You're around new people. There's a new feeling of like, holy shit, this is different. I'm allowed to have these conversations with people. We can question challenging things. I can see what someone else thinks. And those type of magic things happen during those weekends. And so I'm really looking forward to you guys coming out. Please RSVP so we have a number of idea who's coming. And again, it'll be the kind of hopefully from about 3 p.m. for anyone who gets here early on that Friday through the evening and through our party at Dope. And then Saturday will be all day as a group, pretty much probably from 9 to 9. We'll have a full day together. I'm really excited about it. And then Sunday we will have our live group call. I believe I have a guest speaker in town, so I will have them talk with you as well. And it's really great to connect in those weekends, and then we'll have Sunday service here at Dope. So looking forward to sharing that with all of you. On to continuing to this week's topic, as I can't apologize enough for not being available. I'm trying to lead by example, and that is I am still accountable for doing all these things and sharing with you and doing it in as a genuine, authentic, and truthful way. I want to have this time and be accountable to sharing this message and being part of it with you. Can't be in the same place at 2 times, but I will damn sure make sure I can share. I'm working with Elliot to get an upcoming guest speaker to come on another week. And then I'm excited to have that with you guys as well, as those are always really fun to hear other people tell their stories about chasing their dreams and building a life and being able to build something that they're happy to do every day, that they're driven to get better at, that they found that thing. So that's kind of what's coming up. And again, thank all of you for being part of this. And yeah, like I said, I'm sorry I can't be here, but leading by example is I'm out chasing my dreams. I can't believe I'm getting to do this thing with Indian motorcycles and film it and test my team and test ourselves. I have one more after this one in June in the Pacific Northwest. And for something I've dreamed about doing for a decade, I'm excited to be through that one and be able to properly look at that whole process and decide what I like and don't like about it and what I feel about going forward doing more of it. So, you know, despite that it's a dream, I'm not interested in being owned by it. The dream was I wanted to host a travel show, and now I have, and now I get to actually have some opinion about what it feels like to do the reality of that. I'm not obligated to like it. So, yeah, so far I like it. So I want to continue on with being impeccable with your word. I think this topic is something I've continued to think about over the last 2 weeks more and more. And there's a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of depth to that concept. Man, looking at this book, The Four Agreements, and what a beauty and ability the author Don Miguel Ruiz has to write such four simple rules that are essentially bottomless and not perfectible. And I like that, because there's not going to be a there. You can't ever say, like, I am impeccable with my word. Like, man, there's moments. There's always fucking moments you can be better, especially with. So not just being impeccable with your word. Like, so the depth of this that I'm thinking about right now is being impeccable with your word to me feels like that's the idea that I am always going to be speaking my truth and trying to be interpreted in the right intention. So, yeah, often I think you can be misinterpreted unintentionally. I think two people can have the same goals and be frustrated with each other due to a lack of translation of both their intention to each other, whether that is vocabulary, whether that's tone, whether that is systems in place to know how to communicate, or what the other person finds offensive. And then again, that stumbles into when people start taking things personally that didn't happen when you could just have opened communication and been honest with your word and explain it. I think this also couples too, right? Like that feeling really accountable to not just your word, but how it's interpreted. Like that part of being impeccable with your word is key. And I think that you have to be responsible for that. Like, it's not okay to say, oh, they misunderstood me, they did this. Like, if you're misunderstood, that's a mistake that you allowed to happen. And I do my best to not be misunderstood. So I try to explain things clearly and concisely. I try to explain things in a way that I can see it click. And, in managing employees, that's been really important, is that if I'm not very clear and direct and concise on what the directive is I'd like you to accomplish, it's easy for work to be misinterpreted. So a lot of times, even explaining myself in those matters, I will explain and then I will have someone clarify back to me to make sure that we are on the same page. That doesn't always work in relationships, but it can. It can. You can always say, does that make sense? And they say, yeah. And be like, let me make sure that makes sense, because if not, I feel like an asshole. Like, you can own that the part that you don't want to be misinterpreted. That's a big key, is that you're not, your intention isn't misinterpreted, right? And because being impeccable with your word and the other parts of this conversation about how we're not going to use this as a weapon, there isn't this malicious intent allowed. And if people are going to speak to you that way, fuck them. So I know straight from jump, right, that anyone I'm dealing with isn't operating out of scarcity or malicious intent toward me. So that can already take a guard down. That allows me to be more honest and open with the way I communicate. And so I communicate from the same place as that, with honesty and trying to make sure that my intention is understood, because I'm not operating from any malicious intent. If someone misunderstands me, I have to take that as, oh shit, you just misunderstood me. Let me better explain. And if this person at some point doesn't get it, fuck them. That's fine. They can not get it. But that you were explained clearly. That you gave that information the best you can. And I think, that's easy to do if you can keep the people that you're communicating with understanding intention of what you're doing, instead of letting a false expectation get built about what we think the other person is trying to do. And I mean, how many times do we create a different narrative in our head of what we think is happening when we can't see it, when we don't fully understand what that person meant or what they said, or, especially as we've talked about a lot, living in a world that's fully text-based. 99% of our ability to communicate with other people is done through nonverbal communication. And that's why this is important. That's why the meetups are important, is that you get FaceTime, is that you get real connection with people. that you can see my intent, you can see my eyes, you can see emotion, you can hear pauses in my voice, tone, you can hear all these things to know that you know the intent of the person you're listening to, right? And there's a big difference in tone and addressing things. And so making sure that you're not misunderstood is a responsibility that you can own. And that's a big part of being impeccable with your word, is figuring out the word choice to accomplish the goal that you're trying to in communicating that current task. That's a big one. Along with that, for me, I got to develop a lot of that through the years that I did outside sales. And what I got from that type of thing was I didn't mind if the person I was talking to thought they were right or I was wrong or whatever it was, as long as I knew whatever, because sometimes I would get chewed out for a thing I didn't do. That's part of being a salesman. It's part of doing customer service. Totally cool. Happy to take that bullet as long as I know the intention of both of us working together is to continue going this direction. And so this moment of, I know this person needs to blow off steam for a thing I didn't fuck up. Even if my company did, Matt Vincent personally didn't. But my job is to catch that flack because I can process it, I can deal with it, and I can work with the customer. Instead of someone who takes it personally, and then there's an attack from two people who literally want the same thing. This guy wants to do the best job he can in fixing or repairing the thing, and the person running that job would like that done in the most efficient way possible. These two people are working toward the same goal, yet they're fighting because of a misinterpretation and fucking expectations not being met, or having some feeling that they've been personally attacked and that guy was doing this out of malicious intent. So it's really, really important to be careful about it. And it'll really help once the more you get awareness of it, the better it goes. Had, just to give an example of, the ways I communicate now versus a younger age where I'm not as intentional and I'm not as aware of how I come off, and I'm not as aware of making sure my intention isn't misunderstood or that there was ego in the way of perhaps being found out that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And so there's a lie and a portrayal that has to be placed so that I feel safe in knowing that they think I'm capable and an expert. When the reality is they're already talking to me. Like, I'm not selling them on the idea that I'm valuable anymore. They already know. And so me lying and me presenting a false idea of what I believe I'm capable of without truly believing that puts me in a really compromised position, right? Because now my truth of who I know I am and what my abilities are versus what I'm telling them I can do isn't real. And if I do that on purpose, that's malicious and that's unacceptable. And so instead, this conversation I had this morning is regarding me taking over some like director or I don't know, fucking lead pirate, whatever I don't know what the business terms are because they're not fucking important. I don't know what the title is. They want me to run another company, another coffee company, a friend of ours, Caveman Coffee anyway. I don't know why I can't say it out loud. So I'm going to be taking over running Caveman Coffee. And as we're figuring this out, like it's about trying to figure out like what needs to be done, what steps I can take to start getting things going the direction we all want to go. And then going with what is this worth? And then how do I protect myself? So I really started that conversation. I mean, this is a conversation that I'm basically going into saying for me to do this job, I need majority ownership of the company. And that's a weird thing to ask for from someone. But it kind of has to happen, right? If I'm really honest, I need to be protected in knowing that I'm the one who's allowed to make decisions. Otherwise, I don't want to do the job. And so if I'm setting myself up for failure and not able to work the way that I know that I can do this job the best, then I'm not acting out of truth. And if they're not okay with this, that's fine. It's totally acceptable for me. But I know if I'm going to be really honest with them and I want to tackle this problem, I have to do these other things and be honest about it and be willing and brave enough to step up and also say, so I presented that to them and they said, we totally understand. I don't know what legally we can do because we have some shareholders and things like that, but let us dig in and figure out what that looks like. And great. I also had no problem saying, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing as far as shareholder goes or buying in or any of this, continuing to take over another role that has stock. I don't know what I'm doing. And so if we can all take a second here, and these are long-term friends I've known for a long time, I've worked with on different things. And so I said, my intention of coming on board is to help Caveman Coffee grow and get to a point that we could be acquirable by a bigger company. And as long as everyone is on board with that, and that's the direction we want to take this thing, then that's great. That means everyone's driving the boat the same way. So we just need to make sure that that stays in alignment, that we don't have misunderstandings. And so being able to say that very, very upfront, and that what that alleviates, right, is like, so we all know flat out that any type of communication done right now is based on this. So if anyone gets offended or finds something, please address it immediately, because again, we know our intention is all the same. And so if our intention's the same and someone finds something fucked up, it wasn't done personally. Let's address it and figure out the mistake so that we can correct course and continue on where we're headed. I know things are going to get fucked up and mistakes are going to be made, but they're not personal. And let's go ahead and set that boundary right the fuck now. We'll save ourselves a lot of time for people who don't communicate with each other on a regular basis. We've never really worked together and we're never going to be in an office. So it's really easy to get lost in those weeds. So remembering that we set that intention going into this, I think is going to save me as the operator of this. Whatever the title is, doesn't fucking matter. That they know what the intention is, right? Like they know the direction I really want to take the company. And so being able to state those things and be brave enough to say what I think it's worth and how I believe it's going to go and how I can do this, this, and this, and what tools that's going to require, allows me to kind of grow and be in place to take that role. So it felt good to have that just simple, honest conversation. And again, guys, I don't have any business degrees. I don't have any background doing any of the shit I did. Here we are. I have a general studies degree from LSU, and somehow I'm running a half a dozen businesses. And it's just a matter of I'm interested in solving the problems that they're presented. And I believe that I've got an ability to create a problem solve to figure it out. I think I've figured out enough through the last 8 years of experience of running HVIII that I can solve some of the problems at this other brand. The other thing that came up in that conversation, right, was let's say this thing goes gangbusters and gets to a point of plateau at, say, a $10 million a year business. Am I okay with realizing that I'm not the guy who's able to get it from 10 to 100? I have no problem with that. I have no problem in stepping into the role that I'm best suited for, which may be creative director or something like that. I don't have an ego that gets me in the way. If the intention we're all working toward is selling the company, at some point I've got to be able to be honest and admit where my incompetency is holding us back, instead of any type of bullshit ego that would be like, I'm running this, it's my decision, it's mine, I got us here. Fuck that fight. It's not rolling over. It's being as valuable as I can. It's figuring out how I best serve. How am I best part of this? And I believe the more that I've communicated with those intentions and the better I've got about it, and the better I've also got at being able to say, back that up a bit. One of the reasons this works and these opportunities come is because I do the things I say I'll do. I show up to stuff. I am very involved. And these people have watched me grind and work and build my own thing out of ether for the last 8 years. Have watched me continually put out content. They know how hard it all is. So that's why the respect's there, is that I'm just willing to keep showing up and I'm keep willing to figure it out, that I've managed to continue to grow a thing. Like that experience alone will provide me more opportunity, is because through the process of me figuring out every aspect I can be in control of to grow my own company, whether that's the content, the media, the way we shoot photos, the way, you know, the design work, I don't outsource any of the creative part. I've gotten very good at figuring out those problems. Wasn't very good at it when I started. And again, you know, like starting your own thing, you don't always have to have, you know, a huge plan. Like I don't have a $10 million plan in place to run this business. I have some ideas, but you have to be able to execute and you have to be able to implement those ideas. No different than whenever you travel, whenever you have new big experiences or new challenges. If you don't take time to process and integrate those new ideas or concepts, or of what this new place changed in you, how you felt, then you're the same. You're just someone who saw a pretty thing. You're not changed by it. And part of that as well is that being impeccable with your word, that being impeccable with, I said this was something I needed to add into my life. So is it important or is it not? That one to me is really the big one with impeccable, right? Is that I'm trying to stay in alignment with my actions and what I say to myself as well. I want alignment with knowing that if I say something's important, I do it. And I won't torture myself if I think something's important, but I don't show myself and I don't continue to show up to do it, right? My actions are telling me I'm not benefiting from this. I'm not interested. So why do I keep pretending this is going to be something I want to do? That's important for me to be able to say and be able to honestly say with myself, it's not a priority right now. It's that simple. Like right now, I'm very, very interested in this new challenge I've got for myself, and, you know, kind of what we've decided this year we're going to film with Brant and I after the motorcycle thing is we want to shoot a short documentary called Not Dead Yet. And I'm going to take on the Katy Trail. So Kelly Starrett and I are going to take it on, both with our fake knees and gear, and Brant and my team will chase and follow and film and show what it looks like. But the goal of it is we want to complete the 220 miles in under 24 hours. We're going to it's going to be ugly. I've never been on a bike for 20 straight hours. And, I don't know if I can. And if I can't, oh well, and then I'll hit it again. But I'm never going to be in better shape to attack it than the soonest possible time I can get in shape for it, right? Like other than that, I'm just going to get older and all those type of things. So now I have that's in my head. So I know what that's already going to require, right? Like there's some specificity of it that I don't need to stress about yet because it's way down the road. Like what clothes I'm wearing, who gives a shit? I have a bike, those type of things. Even if I don't have a bike, there's no reason for me to go buy one if I'm not fully committed to doing it. And I don't need to go buy the bike to commit to myself. For me right now, I know I just need to log miles on the bike to get used to moving my legs for an extended amount of time. And so right now that's going to end up being like I have at least an hour to 90 minutes every day of pedaling that I can. I'm not going to be able to pull it off while I'm on the motorcycle trip. And then after I finish up in June with the last motorcycle show and get into July, I can really focus training and start putting outside miles through the summer, getting more content, sharing more things, and sharing what that challenge looks like. Because I'm going to have to put some other rides together. I'm going to have to put realistically, I need to put a 100-mile ride in. I need to put a 110-mile ride in. I think if I have an idea of how I feel doing a half distance of it, I have a pretty good idea of feeling like, all right, we can do it. And I base that stupid idea, which, I mean, historically has worked for me, but it is kind of the truth of, like, you know, from 14 Peaks, you know, Nims Persia says, you know, anytime you think you're fucked, you're really only 40% fucked. And there is that other gas tank. And so I know that, like, if I can do, you know, 110-mile day in any amount of time it takes, I guess technically I would love that to be done in 11 hours. I have a pretty good concept of how I feel. So, you know, there's a lot of things to plan, right? And, like, I also love the challenge that comes from doing this, of shooting it and filming it, being able to fuel myself. So I have a lot of new things to figure out. Like, how do I fuel? How do I stay stretched? How do I stay loose? What tools do I have? How do I rest for an hour? Like, can I pack a lacrosse ball in my bag? Does that help? So there's so many new things for me to figure out about what doing something of this level of endurance would look like. And then I'd love to know what doors that opens for me as far as other activities that I find fun or challenging. There's a lot of really cool stuff out there, and the endurance thing, the adventure endurance thing, is really interesting. I like the idea of some bigger, longer, multiple day hikes. I like the idea of being able to do those. And so building an engine that I can kind of just pop out and go for it, it gives me a lot of freedom. That, so if I'm disciplined in some training and I'm disciplined, I don't have to, holy shit, well, that's in 2 weeks. Like, I'm not in shape. Yo, I'm fucking in shape. And being impeccable with my word to me is always being ready. And so that's why I'm in the gym. My actions follow what I say. That I want to be a couple weeks out from being able to do fucking anything. And so I keep my machine ready to fucking go. That's important to me. And if it's not important to me, stop ever fucking pretending it is. Like, that's the alignment, right? If it's not important, if your actions don't say it's important, quit pretending it is and get in alignment and figure out what is important. Figure out where you really want to focus that energy, instead of it being wasted on a lie that you're telling yourself over and over and over again. So I think it's good to make sure that you are aware of that truth, you know, that your intention, your intention is your truth. And so making sure that your actions align with what your intention is, and what the intention of your life is, what the intention of your actions are, what the intention of your direction is. What are you in trying to do, instead of what you're expected to do or what you think you should be doing, but what truly are you aligned with action wise, and putting all the energy there. And maybe that's not a thing that you can do step one, because you have to figure out the process, right? Like, that's something I'm always trying to do, is figure out the puzzle piece to get more options. So one of those options I need to figure out is probably long-term income. I love running HVIII, but I'm also pretty aware that after 8 years into this, my focus historically has been about 10 years on a thing, whether that's sports, Highland Games, anything. And so I'm aware that that's real, and that I should be prepared so that if I don't want to do this anymore, if I don't want to have to do it, if I don't want to have to do photo shoots, then I don't have to, right? Because otherwise then I'm fucking owned again by this thing, and I have to feed it. I don't want that. I want this to be a thing that I continually get to choose to do. And so with that said, I'm trying to be smart with my income now and set up the options that buy me the freedom to have that choice in the future of, if I don't want to fucking do it anymore, I don't have to do it. And I'm okay with losing the money from it because I have other options. And so building real estate, and Airbnbs and figuring out that problem, like getting those things sorted, that I can't start building the second Airbnb out, really not just because it's a financial issue of buying it, furnishing it, getting it going. It is, I need the systems in place between the housekeeper, the way it's managed, the making sure guests are taken care of, that making sure it's restocked, toilet paper, all those type of little things that are going to have to be sorted out detail wise. Like until all of those are running smoothly on the scale of 1, I'm not adding a second because it just overcomplicates it. But once that's running smoothly and I trust it, right? Like I trust that I don't have to think about the Airbnb. It is now a machine that is running almost magically with very little investment of my time. Figuring out those systems and getting things put in place to maximize profit, not time invested, is my concept of what I'm trying to accomplish. If anyone's looking for more information on those type of ideas, please check out 4 Hour Work Week. I've been listening to that for the past week and it's brilliant. It's really, really good. And it talks about maximizing your time and how to look at things and how to totally different build a life that can get you out of the 9 to 5. It's a great resource and I most likely will go through it with the group at some point, but it's a great book. Tim Ferriss is very good at what he does. He's very, very good at what he does, and being able to translate that to a digestible thing for people is incredible. So, and again, the more that you get used to, I don't know why I keep saying again, you know, that's a moniker I could get better. It's a mnemonic thing I could do better. The more that you can be consistent with your actions and your intentions and your words all aligning with your truth, that it's everything you know is the right way, then you don't have to worry about the taking things personally because you know your thing. You're not looking for outside acceptance. You're not looking for validation. You're doing the thing that's right for you. It doesn't need someone else to buy into it. It doesn't need support. You're doing it for you because you love it and you need it and you believe it's the best thing that's going to help you succeed. The more in time that you get to spend in that truth and feel your actions and everything align and start to feel more fulfilled, more excited about your day, more excited about your options, more excited about your opportunities, this builds confidence in you staying aligned with that. You staying aligned with that idea that I'm interested in getting better, that I'm going to solve these problems, that I'm going to be willing to do the work, that I'm going to be willing to be uncomfortable to chase this thing. And a lot of that first step of getting uncomfortable is taking some time to figure out your truth about what your intentions are in your life. So mine has changed over a number of years. And this was a question that came up at FitCon this past weekend, and I'll kind of wrap things up here, but it was someone from the audience that asked our panel, what is your why? And one of the things that's really easy to take note from a panel, especially, you know, these guys that were up there, is no one hesitates on this. Like no one has to wonder. We all fucking know. And my why is I want to create whatever it is that has the biggest impact and income for me to help reach the most people so that they change their lives into doing something they love. I love my life. I love the challenges of it. I love the way I feel about it. And it's not because it's an apparel company. It's not because I travel. It's not because it's those things. I'm not saying that's the fucking answer and what you should do is entrepreneurship or any of this. What I'm saying is whatever lights you on fire the way I'm fucking lit on fire by pursuing this, I want you to find and chase. I believe if I didn't lean into chasing this spirit, this passion, and then figuring out the problems of how I get this to work for me. How do I get this to build a life? How do I get this to be something I can, how do I fund these dreams? Really? You know, and then maybe the back way out of that is what are my dreams and how much do they actually cost? How much money do I actually need to make? Or am I spending money on the next thing, the next house, the next toy, the next thing, and continually being owned by this upgrade and living out of my means? More isn't fucking better. More is more. And that's a thing we're not great at in this country. But sorry, back to the why. Yeah, my intention is to create the most I can, the most impact and income I can, to create the most income and impact I can, to have people live the life they dream about. I know that. I love it. I love seeing people in the group switch on. I love hearing stories about the openness and sharing and vulnerability I have as a creator inspires people to do the same. I love all the variety of messages of people out there and leaders I know, and whether that's, Aubrey Marcus or Rob Bailey, Andy Frisella, or any of these people I know that are leading, these people that are wanting people, our friends Larry with the Dad Edge, these are all leaders. And I think everyone's messages are genuinely the same. And it's that you have to have the accountability and ownership in your life. And you have to take your words seriously, especially the ones that you and promises you make to yourself. Because if you can't be impeccable with how you talk to yourself, what your intentions, what your goals are, and what our actions are going to be, it's going to be really hard for anyone around you to feel safe enough to trust you too. Because if you fucking lie to you, you'll lie to me. And it sucks. But people know it. You're around someone who's always talking about, gonna do this, gonna lose weight, I'm gonna do this, and they don't do any of the fucking actions to do it. They're not great to spend time with. So make sure you follow through on whatever it is. And things are easier than you think they can be. Like, whatever your dream is, once you decide it, like, there's steps to figuring it out. And I want to help you figure out those steps. But until that we have a clear idea of what our intention and what our why is, it's going to be tough. So that's kind of the challenge I would like for you guys to talk about, think about some journaling on. Again, finding that why really works well with that journaling assignment we have followed. And that is the 30 days about tracking what brings you enthusiasm every day, what took your energy away, and then what did you learn? And over the course of 30 days, like, the things that brought you enthusiasm should point you in a direction of things you're kind of enjoy doing. And then we can figure out there what skills you have or need to develop to move more that direction. So hope that works. And again, journaling assignment, start trying to figure out what it is your why is and what you want from your life. Without being able to know that, other than just want good or happy, that's not a fucking thing. Like, you need to have something you want. We need some fucking specifics. If it is $1 million fucking dollars, be honest about that. If it is hot sex and a love life, be fucking honest about that. If it is raising 10 kids so that they all become millionaires, be honest about that. But fucking know what yours is. It doesn't do us any good to make up a fake altruistic one. Don't tell me it's philanthropy and helping people if it's not. Because if it's not, cool. I want you to pursue your thing. I don't fucking care what your thing is. I just want you as excited about it as I am about mine. And the first thing you have to do is figure out what the fuck that is. So I'm going to wrap up there. I thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all a ton. New members, thank you. And again, Elliot, if you can share the RSVP with everyone for the party coming up, I really appreciate it. Thank you all. And I will see you very soon.